You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coonhounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. This is Trevor Wade. I'll be hosting today, and I'm joined by the Director of Hunting Ops, Alan Gingrich. How you doing, Alan?
It's a good day, November the 8th, so you know what that means today. But
yeah.
Aside from that, I hear you got your new little dog, right?
Well, yeah, that is true. I just recently went this past weekend and got me a little Walker female. My daughter's been bugging me for a little Walker female, and I like Hank pretty good, and I want to kind of. He's just good around the house. He's a good hunting dog, and I'd like to have something out of him one day. So I figure this way I'll be able to ensure that I do get something out of him if she makes the cut. That is. So
yeah. So you just picked up this little. How old is this pup? It's
7 months old.
7 months old.
7 months old. Yeah, it's past the puppy stage, which
so
is good for me.
That'll be a little project for you here coming up this fall.
Yeah, I think she'll be ready to run here as soon as she gets used to us. So we've had her for 2 or 3 days now. She's already coming to us, and she's good in the kennel. So she got a head full of sense, which is the first start. But I think I'm about ready to start toting her around a little bit and get her acquainted to the outdoors.
Now, if UKC can just get your papers transferred to you in time, everything will be good, right?
Hey, it's kind of funny that you mentioned it. We've got some registration numbers today, but
you did that podcast with the registration department a couple of weeks ago, and that was good. And they have really bridged that gap, have they not?
Yeah, probably a year ago at this time, we were both frustrated. And a lot of people still were, and it's no secret. They knew it and all that good stuff. And it just didn't seem like we were making any headway. And the past couple of months have been, so encouraging.
It has been, and I am so tickled for them, proud of them, And we've known for a little while that they were really bridging that gap, so to speak. And but we kind of had to wait. But we can, hey, kudos to them.
Yeah.
Kudos
Lots of hours and a lot of hard work by the members of that team.
We get some numbers every week. They give us some information that we see kind of where they're at, and one of the things is their time. We used to get so many calls. Somebody'd say, well, I'm number 89 in the queue when they called up here. Now that's in reference to the registration department.
Right.
Well, I can tell you just at noon, last week they were having a couple times they were down to less than 2 minute wait time. Sometimes nobody in the queue. They've really got it down to nothing. So today, just before we came down here, I ran over there just to see where they were. So at 12:30, they had one customer in the queue.
Right. One
customer.
Yeah.
So the whole time is less than 5 minutes on average for the day. So, wow, that's so good.
Not only have the phones really stepped it up, but the whole email thing has gotten so much better. That was the thing, probably the last thing that was lacking behind.
Right.
And I know in the current update, they're current on those. The other morning, I got an email about a registration question that I shot it over there to them, and they had an answer to me within 15 minutes.
Yeah. And as far as the work that comes in, the registration work, ideally they would like to be within 1 week of processing that stuff. And right now they're really closing that fast too. But they're as of today, they were on November the 8th. They are working on mail that came in on October the 27th, which would have been last Thursday. So it's just a little over about 7 working days right now. So, but they're getting it. They're getting it.
Hey, and that goes to show that if you have a time frame that doesn't match what you're telling them there, then there's probably an issue with the papers.
Yeah.
And there's no better time than to get a hold of them right now during business hours. They have extended business hours now for everybody working or on the West Coast. Get a hold of them and get your problem sorted out, because that's probably a problem on your papers and they're in the hold file probably.
Exactly. And we encourage those folks, and now would be a good time if they have had issues, haven't received their papers or whatever, if it's been a while, contact them. They should be able to get to the bottom of it pretty quick.
Yeah. Email, chat, or phone call now, all going to be efficient options for you, because those wait times are down to nothing.
Yep.
So today we got a pretty fun episode today. We've both been neck deep in rules for the past month. It feels like we've done podcasts about them, wrote columns. We got the rule book proofing going on, trying to get it ready for print and have it out with your January issue of Bloodlines and have it available at events. like the Grand American, which is something we're going to talk about today. We're going to start out talking about the Grand American, but later in the episode, we're going to talk about some of our reproducing lists and some of the top reproducers in the company's history as far as Coonhounds go, which we're both super excited for, I think.
Yeah, when we talked about making this a topic, man, I was excited right away. And yesterday we talked about it a little bit, and this morning I was thinking about on the drive in. I'm looking forward to this. So,
yeah, it's going to be a lot of familiar names, and I hope you guys learned something that you don't know.
Yeah.
We pulled a lot of information, a lot of numbers, and I think it's just going to be fun.
Yeah, some really good stuff. Things that we kind of know, but you got to go look at it, pull it up, and to really find out. Just like who has sired the most pups, in all time, and who has the most titled pups, and this and that. So we're going to bring some of that information today.
Yeah. But hey, we're going to start out with a major. Right now, it's hunting season. Everybody's enjoying hunting right now, but it won't be long, and competition season will be back in full swing. And that's going to start out as usual in the first full weekend in January with the Grand American.
They're already taking entries. Entries are open for. That's just crazy.
It kind of sneaks up on you. You feel
does.
like you just get done with the World Hunt. You're finally getting caught up on some things, and boom, Grand American.
Yep.
But right now, entries are already open. They've had their event ad in our Coonhound Bloodlines recently with their entry forms. That lives on our website, ukcdogs.com. If you go to the Grand American tab, you can print an entry form there. If I were you, honestly, probably if you're on Facebook quite a bit, I would make sure to try to join the Grand American Coon Hunt official event page. Ashley Moss, she kind of mans that page, and she puts a lot of good information on there, a lot of need to know type stuff, and then also event ads and forms and such. And that's going to be a great place for you to get all the information and entry forms you need.
Yeah, just for the record, the event's held on January 6th and 7th, Friday and Saturday of next year at the Orangeburg County Fairgrounds, Orangeburg, South Carolina. So, but yeah, that's a good place to go get the information, and it's also a good time to let UKC does not take those entries. Right. There's an entry form on our website that they can link to get the form if they want to, but those actually get mailed directly to Mr. David McKee in South Carolina. They do not get mailed to UKC.
I think that's kind of a common misconception is that Grand American is similar. It is similar in some ways, but we don't actually put the event on similar to Winter Classic or Autumn Oaks.
Correct.
They do their own thing down there, and they take entries their own way, and this is one of them. And like you said, the deadline to pre-enter for Grand American is coming up quick. By the time you listen to it, you'll only have a couple weeks left. December 10th, 2022 is the deadline to have your pre-entry postmarked and get it mailed to Mr. David McKee there in South Carolina. And if you need his address, refer to the event ad. Like I said, you can find it in Coonhound Bloodlines. You can find it on our website, or you can find it on their Facebook page, Great American Facebook page. So go there for that. Now that we have that kind of out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Grand American and just about it. Obviously, it's a 2-night event as far as the hunt goes, Friday and Saturday night there. And they're going to have their confirmations from 12 to 2 each day to get signed up. The pre-entry, which we talked about, it's a $50 pre-entry. If you do a walk-up there on the grounds, it's $75 for to walk-up enter, and that's based on guide availability. So that's always something to take into consideration.
The confirmation part of that means we're talking about folks that have entered in advance. They still need to come and confirm that they are there each day.
Right.
So they don't pull them out of the draw for that day.
Grand American is similar to every other event out there. It's a bigger scale, but it's still going to be broken up into 2 different divisions. You're going to have the registered category and the champion category for night champions and grand nights. Going to be a 2-hour cast each night, and there they award the top 20 each night. Is that right?
They do each night, yeah, and that comes from both divisions. So just based on highest score, top 20.
Right. And at the end of Saturday nights, early round there, when you're done, they're going to compile all the results, and they'll have 4 double cast winners. You would assume there'll be 4 double cast winners throughout the event that'll go on to hunt a final 4 late on Saturday night for the overall.
Yeah, I am not exactly sure. I would have to go to their event details to make sure of that before I would. I assume you may have.
Yes, I did. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they'll take double cast winners first, and there will for sure be 4 double cast winners. I would think.
Yeah.
If not, they'll refer back to single night high school.
Yeah, so they do it a little bit different than some other events, but that's just a good example of what different clubs or different associations have those. They can do things a little, doesn't have to be like every other event. And here they award the top 20, regardless of category.
Remember how nice it was last year? It was we had 1.5 feet of snow here in Michigan.
Yeah.
My wife sent me pictures of that, and we're down there. It's 70 degrees in South Carolina. Felt a little guilty, but not too guilty.
Yeah,
Because it can be bad down there, too.
It can, and it can be really nice, too.
Yeah. And so for the bench show, they got a really great bench show there at Grand American. They actually have 2 separate bench shows, whereas most major events like Winter Classic and Autumn Oaks, they have 1 bench show held over 2 days. At Grand American, they actually fit a bench show into each day. So Friday and Saturday, there'll be a licensed bench show each day, and they're going to take entries for those shows from 8 to 10 a.m., walk-up entries. There's also advanced entries available. There's a entry form on the ad. It's $25 for advanced entries and $30 for day of show walk-up entries there at the event.
And a youth show as well on that weekend too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Saturday they'll also be having a youth show that'll go after the regular show on Saturday. It usually happens late afternoon into the evening, depending on how many entries they have. But same thing, still got to be signed up by the 10 a.m. deadline, and it's actually a $20 entry fee for the youth show. And one of the big draws there is always their treeing contest. It's not always Coonhounds. You see all kinds of dogs out there doing the treeing contest, but at 1 o'clock each day on Friday and Saturday, they have a treeing contest right outside of the hunt building there.
It is right behind the hunt building.
$5 entry fee, and go out there and see how many barks your dog can get.
Yeah.
And then the last note I have about it is Coonfest. I've actually not personally been to Coonfest before. I think we usually have some sort of dinner with the city on Thursday night where we don't get to go to Coonfest too much, or we're traveling. But Coonfest is on Thursday, beginning at 1 o'clock. It's free to everybody who's there that arrives early. And some of the features that it says is food, country music, entertainment, and door prizes.
Yeah.
I've never been to it, but make plans to go. Seems like a good time.
Yeah, and I think they generally do. I'm not sure if they have it in the headquarters building. They've had it in a couple different places over the years, but sometimes it's in the show building or in the headquarters building. So it's one of those buildings. They'll have it.
Follow the crowd and the sound. You'll be all right.
I'm sure you can smell the food there about early evening there. Follow your nose.
Yeah, there you go. And just the last thing I have here, any more information or contact information regarding vendors, camping, dog bar, and hunter show, you can always get a hold of those folks. There's specific numbers to call for each of those things on the event ad. So just refer to that Great American event ad and you'll find out all the information that you need. And we're looking forward to heading south come January. It'll be here before we know it.
It sure will.
I think it's a good time now to kind of dive into some top reproducing stuff.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this.
We got a ton of information here, so we should get some good stuff to you. But first, we'll just talk about the top reproducers list itself. This has been a staple of Coonhound Bloodlines for years, for as long as I can remember. Always been in the back at Coonhound Bloodlines, and always. Yep,
you'll find a list in every month's magazine in the Coonhound Bloodlines for it, whatever is current at that time.
Right. And as the name kind of indicates, this is just a list of the top reproducing dogs, male and female, of the 7 Coonhound breeds, and it's based on the number of night hunt titled pups they have and the percentage of pups that that have earned the title.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it goes off of, that list. I'm just kind of a sucker for any kind of reproduction stuff.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Breeder stuff is I've always been fascinated with that stuff. You know, one thing about the reproducers list, it's important that folks know to know how it works and how it's compiled, that they read at the top of each list. It tells you what the criteria is. And the criteria for current versus historical and also sires versus dam is not always the same.
Right.
But just be sure to read the top of the start of each list, and you'll see what the criteria actually is.
And we are going to mention the criteria right before we do the list down there. Mm-hmm. I do want to talk about real quick, talking about kind of how we both like reproduction stuff and stud ads and going to events where there's stud banners. I always enjoy seeing the different advertisement for these top stud dogs.
Yeah, well, the one thing that you started to do here in the last year or so, last 6 months or so, has done like a Stud Dog Thursday or every other Thursday, posting it on the forums, and that's been a pretty big hit. Yeah, you're doing a great job with it.
Some of them are getting quite a few views and traffic and getting shared all over social media platforms. So.
Yeah, well, tell the folks what that is. What are you doing with that?
Yeah, basically, I've just last winter when it was kind of slow, I compiled a bunch of lists from past issues of Coonhound Bloodlines on the top reproducers that we've had over the company's history, and kind of going each week. I do a different dog from a different breed, kind of cycle through them and just kind of tell about some of the top performing litters the dog had in its lifetime. You know, there's different things. You go in there and enjoy it. It's on our forums, like you said. That's if you can always navigate to our website and go to the forums.ukcdogs.com, whichever way to get there. And I've kind of enjoyed doing it. Not only am I putting information out there for other people, but selfishly, I'm learning a lot of good information for myself to have. So it's been pretty fun to do. And with it, I learned a lot about the history of some top hounds. And I think we're about to talk about a few of the top hounds that we have in the company's history as far as reproducing, number of reproducing, and then also the number of title pups that they've reproduced. And,
so
that's kind of what I've been basing it off of.
Yeah, we have those lists that are in the magazine we talked about, and then you can find them on the website as well. You know, but the one other thing I was really interested in and glad we're able to get our hands on was the top 5 all-time sires, be it in number of pups produced and also a number of offspring, titled offspring.
Yeah.
That's and we have it right here, and boy, that's an interesting list.
It is an interesting
You went as far
list.
down as getting about 20 of them here, I see, but
Well, yeah.
man, what a star-studded list this is.
We
Holy cow.
We talked about the top 5, but then I started looking at some numbers below, and I kind of wanted to compare a little bit of these top 5 that you see to some of the old dogs that may have not had as much as far as sheer numbers on titled pups go, just because there wasn't as many events back in the day when you're talking about Spring Creek Rock, born in 69.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't very many events to go to back then, was there? Finley River Chief in 57, Houses Clint even in 75. It's just wanted to compare some of today's hounds and hounds from the 90s to hounds back then. So we're going to do that. And I think it's important to highlight these dogs before we get into our top reproducing list, because those dogs are only in the past 25 years that you're going to find on our historical reproducers list. So most of the dogs that we're going to be talking about have aged off that list. We're not going to be talking about them today. So these dogs need their due, because these set the groundwork for what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly right. And this goes beyond that still, and man, I go down, look at the names on these lists. These are the who's who in the of the past.
That's right. So first, you want to talk about the number of pups, the top 5 sires with the number.
Any one of them. I don't care which one you start with. Let's just get started.
So the most pups produced by a Coonhound in the company's history is by House's Leopard. I guess you're probably not surprised by that. Leopard is probably one of the most talked about hounds in the company's history. At the time, the last person to own him that we have on record with us is Wilbert McAllister of Osceola, Missouri. Leopard is a hound that was born in 1981. He has over 5,000 pups on the ground, 5,145, 416 of those dogs titled out. For just over 8%.
So he is
pups.
the number one when it comes to most pups produced.
Yes.
And that's officially registered with the United Kennel Club.
Right.
That's what we go by.
Registered litters. That's correct. Yeah, that's the only thing that we can go by.
Number one, and I think a lot of people would have probably thought and knew that Leopard is number one, but just to see it here and House's Leopard.
Probably a bigger gap than you would think of. We talk about 5,100 pups for House's Leopard. Coming in second place, Nocturnal Nailer, 3,800 pups.
I know, and I'm a little surprised that he is up that high. I thought he would be in the top 5, maybe for sure in the top 10, but second, I guess I just didn't realize he had that many. And it's not by that much, but close to 4,000 pups produced puts him at number 2 all time.
Right, and that's Nocturnal Nailer was a tree and walker owned by Jess Dickerson of Garden City, Missouri.
Yeah.
A dog born in 1990.
And this was a big named stud dog when I first kind of started out. He was just kind of coming along in those early 90s, what a big name in the Coonhound world.
Yeah, oftentimes in my weekly column that I do about stud dogs, it seems like they're in the early to mid 90s is kind of the heyday for sires that are producing a high number of pups. And I don't know what the deal was. Maybe the magazines were caught on then, or the major events where these guys were out advertising, but they caught on, and you see a lot of the same studs over and over again in a lot of pedigrees because of it, I believe.
Yeah.
So Naylor's one. They talk about him being born in 90. The third dog on our list, Ball's Stylish Hickory Nut Harry.
Yeah.
1993 model dog, sired 3,200 pups, 3,232 pups on the ground.
Yeah.
Owned by Timothy Ball of Duncan, Oklahoma.
Yeah. Another walker, 3 walkers in the top 3.
Yeah, we're going to see our first.
Spent my money on Stylish Fred.
Anybody who's been to a major event will know what you're alluding to there. They've heard you perform that one.
Old Hickory Nut Harry, but yeah, top 5 here.
Here you're going to see on our 4th place, you're going to see our first non-walker dog.
And that's the one I told you I was a little surprised that he would be up there in 4th place. But yeah, Michigan Swamp Rooster.
Michigan Swamp Rooster, an English hound, obviously. Obviously had different owners throughout the year, Wyatt Wright and...
First came from Paul Taylor here
Paul
in Michigan. Yeah, so up here in these parts where the office is at, here right around here, there's a lot of Swamp Rooster pups, and a lot of those scattered around this part of the country, for sure.
And Morris Tart's the last one that we have on record as being an owner.
Wyatt Wright owned him at one time down in Alabama and did,
Rooster is a 1991 model. He sired 3,172 pups. That's a lot of English dogs.
Yep, sure
he
is.
He kind of runs away with the English breed as far as numbers, and there's nobody even close.
Mm-hmm.
And rounding out the top 5 will be kind of the newest dog on this list here, one born in 2002, and that's All Grand Track Man, Kurt Aaron and Buzz Lynch.
Yeah. Not really surprised by that. Really, I expected him to be in the. I expected Trackman to be up there above Naylor and Hickory Nut Harry, to be honest. But and the numbers aren't that far. If you look between second and fifth here, there's not much of a difference between those fourth through or second through fifth.
No, and you're right. Trackman and probably he still has semen out there that's not been used. Probably going to see him add to the number.
He's edging right up there to 3,000 pups.
Yeah, just shy. 2,995 as of today, and probably going to grow above that soon, I would think.
But I would think so. Yeah, another litter.
That's it for the top 5. But man, the top 20, you're talking about some big time names on here.
Yeah, so again, just the top 5 to reiterate: Leopard, Naylor, Hickory Nut Harry, Swamp Rooster, and Trackman. Top 5. But then going down through there, we cannot look here at this list and not go down through it at least real quick.
Sure.
What the all-time top 20 here?
Yeah.
Do it real quick.
Yeah. 6, Beller's Pac-Man, Rat Attack, Hard Knockin' Stylish Hayes, Wagers Stylish Lipper, Dahoney's Boone, Smith's Hillbilly Mac, Backwater Bone Collector, Insane Kane, Spring Creek Rock, Sackett Jr., Stylish Coma, the original Balls Hickory Nut Harry, House's Clint, and Finley River Chief. What a list.
It is. It's a crazy list right there.
Anywhere ranging from Lipper starting that list off with over 5,000 pups produced, and Finley River Chief coming up 20th there. Back in 1957 with over 1,800 pups produced. Just something to look at. I guess now we'll talk about some of the ones that, and this is going to be a similar list probably for the number of titled pups produced. And in our top 5, actually, there's a lot of overlap. 4 of the 5 dogs are on both lists. The only one who's not on this one that was on the last one, it took place of Swamp Rooster. So real quick, and that's going to be our number 1 dog. You didn't see this dog on the top 5 in number of pups produced, but he's the number 1 on titled pups produced, and that is Rat Attack.
Yep, 568 titled pups, number 1 in UKC.
Absolutely astonishing to me when I wrote my little blurb on Rat Attack. He had 2,485 pups on the ground, 568 of those titled, over 22, almost 23% of his dogs that he sired titled out.
That is a pretty good percentage, considering the number of pups he has produced.
Talking hunt titles.
Yeah, hunt titles. And I know they bred him not just to, even before we had the X-bred program, this and that, they were breeding him to a lot of outside other breeds, and this and that, but that's just crazy.
And finishing out the top 5, obviously Rat Attack was owned by Buzz Lynch out of Tennessee there. 1994 model, another there in the early 90s that left his mark on the breed, and you're seeing him in a ton of pedigree still today even, and the impact that he's had on coon hunting in the whole. But again, 19 out of 20 on this 19 out of 20 on this list are Walker dogs, and our whole top 5 is Walker dogs in this go round. Second, All Grand Trackman, again 515 titled pups. Third is Nocturnal Naylor, 485 titled pups. Hickory Nut Harry is 4th. He had 477 titled pups, and House's Lipper came in at 5th with 416 titled pups. Swamp Rooster got bumped out of the top 5 there, but he still maintained a pretty good number of titled pups. But it's hard to argue with this top 5 here.
Yeah. Rat Attack, Trackman, Naylor, Hickory Nut Harry, and Lipper. Top 5. And that's number of titled dogs produced.
And there's actually probably a few names on this list that you don't see on the number of sired, because you're just not seeing a lot of the older dogs on this list that you did on the other ones.
Yeah.
Obviously, there just wasn't as many events back then. So it makes a lot of sense. But rounding out the top 20, you got Sackett Jr. at 6th, Bone Collector, Insane Kane, Swamp Rooster, Tequila Sunrise, Booger Hollow Mojo, Fletcher Stylish Jake, Pac-Man, Hard Knockin' Stylish Hayes, Schooner River Fred, Crow and Grant's Cutter, Stylish Coma, Hillbilly Mac, and Cowie Creek Clint.
There again, just what a list.
And some of these dogs aren't done. I mean, we're still going to see titled dogs from a lot of these dogs because of semen floating around there, Mojo, Trackman, some of Tequila Sunrise, some of these other dogs that aren't too old. So that kind of sets the tempo with the show, because we're about to get into some top reproducing lists right after we take this break right here. This podcast is brought to you by the all-new Dogtra Pathfinder 2. Dogtra, the official GPS collar partner of UKC. All right. Well, we're going to get into some of the top reproducers lists that we have available. Like I said, these lists are available both on our website and they're in the back of Coonhound Bloodlines. Every issue have been for years and years and years. So most of you guys are familiar with it, but I think it's a good time to highlight some dogs that have achieved that and talk about them a little bit. So I'm excited for this. But the first thing to do is talk about some of the parameters to be on this list. For current males, on this list. And these placements are going to be based on the percentage of night champions and grand night champions produced versus the number of pups produced. So it's based on percentage on the current list. The other parameters to be on this list, they must be 12 years old or less on the date of the report. They must have at least produced at least one registered litter within the past 12 months and must have produced at least 100 pups overall.
And you can find these parameters in the magazine each month at the top of each one of the lists.
Yep.
So that's for the current sires.
That's for current males. For historical males, it's a little bit different. It's not based on percentage. It's based, the placements on there are based on the total number of night champions and grand night champions produced overall.
Right.
So instead of percentages, it's based on overall numbers. And for that one, they have to have been born within the past 25 years, and they must have produced at least 100 pups. So
it's a little bit different.
For the females, very similar, but some of the numbers are a little different. Obviously, a female can't have near as many males if based on breeding regulations. So for the current female list, again, it's going to be based on the percentage of night champions and grand nights produced versus the number of pups produced. They must be 12 years old or less, same as the males. They must have produced at least one registered litter within the past 2 years instead of 1 year. And they have only needed to produce 20 pups instead of 100 that the males are required of. And on the historical female list, again, it's based on overall numbers, not percentages of night champions and grand night champions produced. Must have been within the past 25 years, and again, 20 pups to be on the list overall. So pretty simple there, and like you said, it's at the top of our standings on both the website.
Yeah, and there's, because of that historical must be 25 years old or less on the date of the report. So that's why you're never going to find the Spring Creek rocks and some of the lippers and those on this list anymore that we talked about earlier.
That's exactly right. So, hey, we're kind of going to break this down by breeds. We're going to start out with the black and tan breeds. We're going to talk about males and females, and then we'll move on to the next breed. So I kind of hope you guys enjoy this. We've kind of enjoyed compiling this information. I look forward to talking about it a little bit because we've not really discussed it. We didn't have time to really discuss it in depth, so I'm excited to see what we come up with.
This list that we're going off of was compiled when? It's the most recent list we have. It was
compiled on October 26th.
There you go.
Most recent list we have. Every 26th that's ran, so this is the most recent list we have, and honestly, probably hasn't changed very much since then.
Right.
If at all. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our current black and tan males.
All right, let's get started.
Yeah, our current number one reproducing male is Gilman's Kentucky Rebel, sired by Kentucky River Batman, and the dam is Gilman's Black Rose.
In number two, we have Black River Rapper, that is sired by McCoy's Black River Buddy, and off of Black River Hazel is number two.
Coming in third is Lamb's Bayou Creek Shakespeare, sired by Lamb's Bayou Creek Cy, and the dam is Lamb's Bayou Creek Sage.
And then in fourth, we have Tomley's Big Boy, who is sired by Cooper Storm and Ike, and out of Tubbs Hardball Jill.
And kind of rounding out our current list with only 5 here in the black and tan breed is Knowles Hatchie River One Eye, sired by Dark Hollow Big Money, and the dam is Crockett Black Windy.
Yeah.
First off, are you a little surprised that there's only 5 of them to talk about here for the males when we usually do a top 10?
Yeah, it kind of am, especially in the black and tan breed, but some of this goes back, and we're going to see a little bit more of it in some of the other breeds, but I think as compared to the old days, there's just so many more dogs that are, I feel like that they're breeding to, and just more of them that aren't meeting the parameters to make the list.
That's right.
That have 100 pups on the ground or what have you.
Yeah. So
they're not going all to the Spring Creek Rocks and the Lippers and the Rat Attacks and the Sackett Juniors.
Yeah. Basically, what this list is telling us that there's only 5 black and tan males currently registered with UKC that have at least 100 pups on the ground.
Yep.
At least one titled pup out of those 100 pups, and are 12 years old or younger.
Right.
Kind of hard to believe.
I know it is.
But like you said, now. With the social media being more prevalent, you see a lot more stud dogs out there, a lot more options to breed to. It's not just the dogs that you're seeing in the magazine or seeing their banner at a major event. It's the numbers now. There's so many different dogs to breed to in people's opinion because they're seeing them everywhere.
Yeah. But that's some good numbers there for Rebel, for Gilman's Kentucky Rebel. They're a total of 17 title dogs out of 129 pups, 13.18%.
Yeah. And of course,
Number
Rebel
one.
there, the name kind of indicates he's owned by David Gilman of
Yeah.
Fieldman, Illinois. He's a name that we see on here quite. You'll see his name and influence on this quite a bit. He's a guy who's breeding top quality dogs, and it shows by these lists. Let's get into the historical list a little bit. Historical black and tan Coonhound males. Our top reproducer currently on the historical list, Kentucky River Batman out of Crockett Black Newt and Kentucky River Chigger.
Yeah, and there you look. He's number one, and he is the sire of the number one current black and tan Rebel. Number two historical is Cane Creek Ugly Stick that was sired by Rough Creek Easy's Thunder Stick and off of Yoder's Fox River Amazing Amy. Amazing Amy is a female that I've hunted with. Just a nice, super fast little female that I loved that little dog right there. So, and a good little reproducer too.
The first dog that I ever titled out, you're going to see a siren down both on this list. He's out of Ugly Stick directly, so familiar with that line of dogs, and those guys who promote that dog have done a great job pushing people to the hunts. Yep. Third, Bad of the Bones Cane. Cane's out of Bad of the Bones Stone and Bad of the Bones Mini Pearl.
Yeah, and then in fourth, Doolin Dan, another big name in the black and tan breed, has been for years. That dog is sired by B&B's Black Hoss and off of Ragin' Bell.
We got Bowers Kansas Jr., obviously Blaze Bowers' dog out of Dark Hollow Hobo Sauce and Kansas Jewel.
Then in sixth, we have Crockett's Black Newt. That is sired by Crockett's Black. I don't have that right, do I? No. Yeah, it is Crockett's Black Newt. That is sired by Hall's Southern Gauge and off of Schenker's Nating Smoking Hannah.
Right.
Number 6.
And rounding out the top 10 there, you got Bad of the Bones Black Hawk, who we just talked about. It's out of Newt and a cross with Sleepy Hollow Moonshine.
Yep.
Holdings Northern Rocket out of Rex and Raging Susie. Brigman's Black Bow out of Typhon and Little Girl. And Sundown Raging Moonshine out of Tennessee's Raging Ranger and Oprah.
Yeah.
So that's the top 10 historical reproducers. Man, let's park and talk about Batman a little bit. Just as far as the number of pups produced on this list right here, he's an outlier. 854 pups on the ground right now. Closest one besides that, 505. Impressive. 98 total dogs finished out. And I kind of have a interesting bit here about Batman. He has sired 4 dogs that we're looking at on this list right now. He sired the top current male, which we talked about, Rebel, and also the 3 of the top 10 current females that we're about to talk about. Talk about a dog leaving his mark on the breed.
Yeah, those a couple of those dogs that those boys have owned, Shane and Micah Ayers down in Kentucky. Batman, Superman, and some of those dogs. They've just had some very good success with that line of dogs that they've bred and hunted for these last 10, 15 years, and had a lot of success with them, showing up on our reproducers list.
He's going to be one of those dogs that black and tan guys are going to be seeing in their pedigrees for years and years and years.
For sure.
You want to shift gears over to the females a little bit?
Yeah.
You want to start it off with the top current reproducing female?
Yeah, so the number one reproducing or current female is Crockett Black Wendy. That is sired by Croc's Black Kozar and off of Black Cat Bottom Wendy. She is number 1 on the list. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
you want to talk about Wendy a little bit?
Yeah, well, we can come back to that maybe. Okay. Second, let's go to Coulter's Soul Singer, who's off of Kentucky River Batman again. Coulter's Ringtail Genie. Smith's Moon Pie Sally comes in at number 3 and she's off of Hurricane Creek Ugly Stick, and Mogan Ridge's Rough Creek Candy. Late Night Storm is tied for number 3 there, and is off of Storm and Ike and Import Delilah. And rounding out the top 5 here, Midnight Bella, Barnes's Midnight Bella, Kentucky River Batman, Moonlight Kate. That's your top 5 right there.
Tough list of females.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back and talk about Wendy a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Wendy, obviously she is owned currently by Preston and Steve Knoll of Walnut, Mississippi. Those guys have been making some really top-notch crosses the past couple of years. Came from Mike Crockett, as her name indicates, a guy who's had a big influence on the black and tan breed over the past couple decades. Mike, obviously, he's one of their lifetime members as of this year, and just a guy who's left a big imprint on the breed.
Yeah, a total of 50 pups produced. 19 of which are totaled or titled. Percentage of 38%.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and you talk about dogs who do good both percentage-wise, 38%, and then number of, we're about to see her again on the historical list here. Number one on our historical list, Puke Box Annie out of Kansas Junior and Rough Creek Little Land. Another very well-known female here, Kentucky River Chigger out of Dark Hollow Teague and Holloway's Tennessee Black Chigger. You got Crockett Black Wendy, who we just talked about, the current top reproducer and female. It's out of Black Kozar and Black Cat Bottom Wendy. Coulter's Ringtail Genie out of Holding's Northern Rocket and Coulter's Kinetic Kit. And then rounding out the top 5 is Hyatt's Moonlight Kate out of Black Hollow Danny Boy and Baker's Preacherville Molly.
Yeah, just some outstanding reproducing females right there. You're probably more up on some of the black and tan stuff than what I am, but these are names that I've been seeing ever since I've been around, and some females that have done this Kentucky River Chigger in second there, 51%, 51.22%, that's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
You don't have to be a big follower of the black and tan breed. Let's talk about I'm seeing 4 females here on the black and tan historical list for females that are over 50%.
Yeah.
Puke Box Annie, 51%. Chigger, 51%. Moonlight Kate, 54%. Reed's Black Grace, 50%.
Yeah.
You talk about half of their pups aren't just making coon dogs; they're titling out in hunt events. It's very impressive.
Yep.
And just to talk about Puke Box Annie a little bit, I'm familiar with her. I hunted a dog out of her for many years, out of her and Ugly Stick that I liked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
She is currently owned by Jason and Judy Short in Virginia. Got her from Robert Church over in Kentucky, who was one of the guys who I bought one of my first top Coonhounds from. So wanted to talk about Puke Box Annie a little bit. She's a nice female.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we just real quick to wrap up the black and tan stuff. Like we talked about, Batman. 4 dogs on this list. 3 current, 1 male and 3 females. That's impressive, to say the least. And then there's 7 other dogs on this list that have multiple offspring. Cooper Storm and Ike, Bat of the Bones Black Hawk, Shinker Smoking Jet, Crockett Black Newt, McCoy's Black River Buddy, B&B's Black Hoss, and Smokey's Raging Ruby. They all have multiple dog offspring on this list of top reproducers. So not only are they're reproducing reproducers, which goes a long way toward their legacy, I think.
Sure is. That's just an amazing list there again on the black and tan side. Much we talked in the opener here. We talked about some of these all-time treeing walker sires. What they've done is impressive. But you look at some of these historical black and tan sire stuff and their sires. What their sires have done is just their sires. A lot of them were on these lists as well at one time.
Absolutely, they were. You're exactly right. Yeah, so we won't have much to talk about in the next breed. Unfortunately, the Leopard Hound's one of the smaller breeds that we have, one of the newer breeds. So, but we'll get through it here. Right now, our top reproducing American Leopard Hound there's only one of them on the current reproducers list, and that is Sparks High Plains Yeti. He's out of Sparks High Plains Kiwi and Sparks High Plain Cran, who we'll see in a second on the other list. But this is a dog that is owned by Dobbin Ray of Ashland City, Tennessee. That's Yeti.
Yeah, I guess that's an owner that I'm not I don't know him, or I don't know anything about him, or what have you. But he is the only one that made the parameters to be on the list. So
yeah. There are a few on the historical list. The first one here is one that I've seen a lot in the past couple of years. Do you want to start out with the historical American Leopard Hounds there?
Yeah. So Keene's Big Moose is number 1. He is sired by Riley's Flathead Valley Bolt, and that's a dog that we saw early on when we brought the Leopard Hounds over to the Coonhound side. Carlax Grace is the dam of Big Moose. In second place is Sparks High Plains Yeti, which is the dog that is also current, which you mentioned he's off of Kiwi and Crayon. And then in third we have Riley's Flathead Valley Bolt, who is off of McDill's Johnny Reb and McDill's Pretty Girl. And number 4, Meek's Georgia Jake, who's off of Meek's Lone Ranger and Meek's Little Sheba. And then rounding out the top 5, we have Myers Bone Hollow Scout, who's off of Glade Creek Newt. And I don't have a dam listed on that.
Yeah, some of those dogs may still have some unknown lineage and did single registration type stuff on those lists. But
Probably
here,
so.
here to talk about Moose a little bit. Moose is still owned by Jason Keene of Richland, Virginia, who's had some pretty decent leopards the past couple of years. He's done some winning at some of our major events, and Moose is one that I've seen win at Autumn Oaks in the world in different places.
Yeah, and he has 149 pups produced, so he's probably number one all time for American leopards, I would assume.
That is correct. Yep. Not much to talk about as far as current American leopard having females go. None of the females met the parameters to be on the top reproducers list for the females, but we do have a full list of historical leopard hound females. We'll go through the top few here. The one we talked about a little bit ago, Sparks High Plain Crayon out of Wright's Bend and Wright's Little Lady. Second is McDill's Pretty Girl. No sire listed, but out of Lewis's Cheetah. Goins Wicks Camo Jug Double Judy out of Hinton's Smut and Odom's Sugarfoot Robin. Gaines Floyd River Gabby out of Wicks Camo Jug and No Dam listed. And rounding out the top 5 is Black Ridge Callie out of McDill's Johnny Reb and Show Me Camo Josephine. The leopards there. So the top historical female leopard was the Crayon dog that was the dam of the Yeti dog we talked about earlier, and that dog's owned by Wayne Bowman of Whitwell, Tennessee. He also has a couple of dogs that are doing good right now on our current scene. So Wayne is
he's a guy we still see at some of our hunts and has some pretty good success with his leopard hounds for sure.
Yeah.
And this female's probably a big part of that.
Yeah, I would say
almost 20%, 19.5.
That is pretty good, especially when you put it up to some of the other dogs we're seeing on this list here. Absolutely very good for Cram there.
Yep, for sure.
Really left her mark on the leopard breed and advancing them in the competition scene. Quickly, we'll get through the Blueticks here. This is one that we're going to see a full slate for, and it's a breed I feel like it's coming on in the past few years. You're seeing a lot of dogs doing a lot of Blueticks in the winter circle here recently, seems like.
Yeah, and you've probably noticed since you've moved up here to Michigan, if you hunt around this area, you see quite a few Blueticks up here in Michigan. A lot of guys have them. You know, Dave Dean was up from here and from this area. Ed Mead. You know, and because of a couple of those guys, you know, they have there's a lot of good Blueticks that are up here, and we see them when we go to the Winter Classic. Probably at that event, we probably see more Blueticks than any other major event.
That's true.
Probably more than we do at Autumn Oaks, but but yeah, this list is pretty impressive as well.
Absolutely, it is. So we'll get into the current Bluetick top reproducing males. First one we see here is Hulse's White River Traveler. The dog's out of Running Bullet 2 and Hobbs Little River Candy. The second one here, Blue Balling Rebel, out of Vernon's Blue Mountain Banjo and Coates Ball Creek Blue Squirt. Third, Lost Creek's Tree Slamming Hoss out of Divided Acres Tree Banging Hoss and Skunk Creek Sydney. Fourth is Smoky River Blue Buck Jr. HTX4 out of Smoky River Blue Buck and Baker's Can Do Maggie. And rounding out the top 5 there is Prairie Creek Blue Boat Talks out of Bocephus and Prairie Creek Blue Josie.
Yeah, so going back to the number 1 White River Traveler, I don't know very much about that dog other than his sire, Twin Springs Running Bullet 2 he's also the sire of many other winners, you know. So, but yeah, I'm sure you have the information on who owns the dog.
Yeah, Tony Hodge Jr. of Galena, Kansas owns the dog, and he's done a great job. He's one that doesn't have he's barely met the parameter for pups with 111 pups, but 10 of them are already titled. So you're probably going to see an uptick in that. And it's kind of funny how the current list does to the historical list when it goes by percentages instead. Because when you look at some of the dogs that are just outside the top 5, like Big Country and Lonesome 2 and Pop 'em Up Woodrow, these are dogs who are seem like they have more pups on the ground and actually more titled dogs, but just their percentages. A lot of them are young and they don't have the percentages just yet. Right. But you're going to see those kind of dogs climb up in the standings.
Yeah, you mentioned Big Country, you know, and you mentioned Traveler has 111 of pups total as compared to Big Country has 656.
Hard to believe. Yeah. And a lot of them are very young.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are in the past 2 or 3 years probably and still just
now you know, we all know that Big Country has been bred to quite a few off-breed dogs as well, and the question is, do those off-breed dogs that are titled, do they count on his reproduction records and the answer is yes.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
As long as they're UKC registered, even if they're crossbred.
Yeah. And like you said, I think Big Country and probably even Lonesome 2 are a couple of dogs that we're probably going to see on this historical list whenever some of their dogs get older and compete in our events and finishing out to title out. But as of right now, do you want to help me going through the historical Bluetick male list a little bit?
Yeah, so in number 1 is Tucker's Blue Boomer, a dog out of up here in Michigan, who is off of Southern Blue Thunder, and Christian's Blue Gretchen. In number 2, we have Springs Running Bullet 2, who we talked about a little bit ago, who is off of Vining's Running Bullet, and Jean's Blue June. So that's Smoky River Jean's Blue June. Wild and Blue Pounder sits at number 3. He's off of Man's Wild and Blue Spanky, and off of Lingo's Blue Jill. And then rounding out the top 5 in 5th is Blue Creek Gauge off of Mead's Jet 8 and Ball Creek Blue Hooker.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good dogs on this list. Rounding out the top 10 real quick, B&D's Blue Spike, Northern Blue Dancer, Neshoba Valley Piazon. I have trouble saying that name. But obviously you see the name everywhere.
Yeah.
Uchman, So Blue Clyde, and Bullet's Running Rattler. A really strong list of Bluetick males there. You talked about Blue Boomer. You say he's from up here in Michigan. This is a dog that Terry Tucker owns in Albion.
It is.
Yeah.
We used to see Terry at a lot of hunts. You don't see him here in the last several years, but he's had a lot of success with Boomer and Boomer pups, But Terry, he's bass fishing these days, seems like. So.
Well, let's see. Boomer had 326 pups on the ground, 61 of them titled out for a really good percentage. 18.7% of his dogs titled out. So that's strong.
Right. And the one there's a couple dogs here. Wild and Blue Pounder. That dog is owned by Mackie Mans from Indiana, northern Indiana. A lot of the Bluetick folks will know him. And his daddy is one. Wild and Blue Spanky is one that I personally hunted. Took him out to the zones one time in Missouri, I think, and hunted him for Mackie.
Oh, okay.
One year I didn't get a dog in qualified or whatever, but so I hunted old Spanky for him. But yeah.
You see a couple of males that we've talked about here that have multiple offspring on this list, which is super impressive to me. Bocephus, we talked about, has Botox and Big Country on the list. Vining Running Bullet has 2 historical males on this list. Blue Creek Gauge has a current male and a current female. Bingo's Northern Blue Dancer has a historical male and a historical female. And Spanky, like you just talked about, has a historical male and historical female on this list. And Piazon has 2 current females. I may be butchering that. So that's always super impressive to me.
Yeah, half of these dogs I've actually hunted with, and it is just it's cool to see dogs like this. And this is the historical list we're talking about, but I guess kind of ages me a little bit. But,
I guess if you've hunted with most of the dogs on the historical list, you must be getting a little old.
And you know what? Most of these dogs that are here, they could compete with any dogs out there. And in their time, they really could. Boomer was one of those. Pounder. Or that Rowdy Bocephus, I think that is the sire of Big Country.
That's correct. Yep.
And a lot of other good dogs. Blue Creek Gauge, that Eric Fisher used to hunt that dog, ran him in the annual series here, and did a lot of winning with him. Blue Spike comes from up out of Michigan up here. That was a dog that could put up some points and in a hurry. Northern Blue Dancer is another one I hunted with. Did a lot of winning. He was a very solid hound as well, but just several that I'm very familiar with.
Yeah. So without further ado, I guess we'll jump over to the females in the Bluetick breed. First, starting out with the current reproducing females. Number 1 on the list, Blue Creek Saturday Night Special out of Blue Creek Gauge and Blue Creek Alice. Number 2 on the list, Holly Creek's Blue Frosty out of Holly Creek's Tree Talkin' Smoky and TNT's Mighty Millie. Third, Mackenzie's Chippewa Creek Kate out of Tucker and Mead's Blue Boomer 2 and Setterdale's Sadie Mae. Ring's Blue Jade out of Piazon and Goussain's Midnight Blue Ring. And Tim's Blue Luis out of Tim's Blue Iron Wheel 2 and Tim's Blue Shotzi. That's the top 5. Rounding out the top 5, just real quick, Homebrew Blue Josie, Langan's Blue Duck, Lots of Grit, Wild and Blue Jazz, Waltz's Queen of Country Music, and Mox's Blue Jammin' Piper.
Yeah, so there again, the parameters are the most highest percentage, and at 20% for Blue Creek Saturday Night Special. They're off of Blue Creek Gauge and Blue Creek Alice. Both of those dogs, obviously Gauge mentioned him a little bit ago, but Alice was a nice little dog too. So the number 1 female there, Special, is a product of them. 20%.
Yeah,
20%.
Special's a dog owned by Ronald Jackson of Lisbon, Ohio. I know Lisbon, it's familiar to me because they have one of the top RQE, seems like year in and year out at Lisbon. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about Blue House a little bit, and I think we're probably about to see her again here on the historical reproducers list. Do you want to go through that one?
So number one on the historical is Spring Hill Blue Jenny, who is off of Splash Creek Blue Mule and Splash Creek Blue Maggie. Number two is Blue Creek Alice, and there she is, who is off of Tucker's Blue Boomer, we talked about a little bit ago, and B&D's Blue Ruby, another dog I've hunted with a lot, off from up here in Michigan. Prairie Creek Blue Josie is off of Baird's Blue Bow and Baird's Blue Sioux Girl. She's at number three. Number four is B&D's Blue Ruby. There she is, who is off of Spike and Twilight Blue Poison Ivy. And then number five, Tree Slammin' Blue Lady. That is off of Northern Blue Jet 5 and Davis's Badlands Blue Lady 2.
Yeah, and rounding out the top 10 there, let's just give them their props real quick. We got Davis's White River, Salin Sadie, Law Racing's Blue L, Holly Creek's Tree Slammin' Kate, Wild and Blue Lou, Buffalo Creek to Too Tough Betty, and Mitzi Blue. So another strong list there. And you talked about Jenny there being the top dog. Real quick, she's owned by Tony Clevenger in Dandridge, Tennessee. Spring Hill Blue Jenny. But you said you're familiar with
31% there for Jenny. Now here on the historical, they don't go by percentages, and she's not the highest there, but she had the most titled pups at 23.
She put 74 pups on the ground. That's a lot for a female. She almost meet the parameter for the male list with 74 pups on the ground. Must have had some large litters, but you talked about Alice there. She's the only female out of the Bluetick breed that has two of the pups that are on the top reproducing list here. Alice,
right? Another one I'm familiar with and number 6, Salin Sadie, who has almost 30% there as far as reproducing goes, 16 total title dogs. But she was placed like third in the world championship. Let me see, in Tennessee, Springfield, Tennessee, 16 maybe? Something like that. But yeah, so Mark Van de Venter owned that dog. Let me see, Wild and Blue Lou, further down the list. That's another one I'm familiar with, and just some nice females here on this list. We'll be right back.
If you're trying to contact UKC, don't wait on hold. Use the online chat feature on ukcdogs.com. The English breed's another one that is just filled with top names on here that people are going to be very familiar with, both reproducing and in the winter circle. But we'll get right into the current top reproducing English males right now. Our current number one is Kay's Blue John Bathus out of Red Ruby Hardtime Hoss and Red Lady. Number two is River Bottom's Cracker Jack out of Loudmouth Jr. and Shorts Blue Angel. 3 is Red Ruby Hardtime Buck out of Main Street Dino and Rhodes Tri-County Ada. 4th is Red Ruby Hardtime Crow out of Red Ruby Hardtime Hoss and Cross Creek Jetta. And rounding out the top 5 is Shorts Loudmouth Jr. out of Hammond's Big Nut Creek Bullet and Shorts Loudmouth Bill.
And then rounding out the top 10 current sires, Stone Cold Steel, Main Street Wild Crow, Timber Rattling Swag, The Wicked Vapor, and Jones's Little Bighorn make up the rest of the top 10 there. But yeah, you're right. That is an impressive list here, and dogs that we've seen a lot in the last 4, 5, 6 years have done a lot of winning.
There's a lot of cash wins on that list there. Going back to our top one there, Blue John Bathus. That's a dog that's owned by Eddie Lemon and Greg Pyatt of Nitro, West Virginia. It's a dog that has 375 pups on the ground with 36 of them titling out. Percentage right now at 9.6%.
Yeah, sired by Red Ruby Hardtime Hoss, and some of that Red Ruby stuff comes from the Ishes up here in Decatur, Indiana. And you see some of that blood, and those strain of dogs are splattered all over the reproduction list.
Yeah, just you probably heard it there, but Hardtime Hoss, the number 1 current reproducer and the number 4 current reproducer, sired both of them.
Yep.
And we're about to talk about him on our historical list right now.
Yeah, number 2, that River Bottom's Cracker Jack comes out of Texas. That's I love the way that dog looks. I've always liked the color of that dog for an English, but that dog's done a lot of winning, and obviously sired a lot of good dogs too.
Yeah, interesting. He's out of Shorts Loudmouth Jr., who is also number 5 on the current list.
Yeah.
Out of a reproducer that's reproducing.
Main Street Wild Crow. That's a dog Asa Briggs hunts a lot, and has done a lot of winning with.
And one of Ace's dogs is going to be the first one we talk about here on the historical list, right? Do you want to take off on this one?
Yeah, so on the historical for sires, we have Main Street Jack, who is off of Main Street Roy, and Black Eye Bell. Number 2, Briar Creek Zeb, who is off of Pithole Creek Huckabuck and Timber Valley 10. Hard Time Swamp Cat, who is off of Balls, Virginia Swamp Rooster, and Long's Hard Time Kim. Main Street Roy, who is off of Nichols Tree Spike and Carmichael's Woodstock Tina. And then number 5 is Wolf Creek Rollin' Rock, who is off of Postel's Totally Awesome and Richardson's Coon Crazy Daisy. That's your top 5.
And rounding out the top 10, you got Hard Time Awesome, World Champion Wilcox Thunder Top Gun, Main Street Max, Ruby Hard Time Hoss HTX, and JT Charlie the 7th.
When you look at the historical dogs here and their sires, man, we talked about the top 20 all time. This is a very impressive historical list when you look at both the sires and their sires. You know, you're talking Main Street Roy. You know, that was a dog out of Kentucky that Stanley Nichols owned that dog. He got ran over when he was young, but he was reproducing at the time, a lot of good solid hounds, and was taken out at an early age. And it's hard telling what that dog would have done had he not got run over that early, you know. But Main Street Roy and Main Street Jack, and I'm sorry, you probably got your notes here, but I remember when Jack was a pup. One of the first hunts he had him in was at Redbone days, and I remember my brother drew him that night, and he came back from the hunt, and he said, "Man, that dog is a freak." I don't think he was even a year old yet, and he said, "You're going to hear about this dog," and we sure have. Yeah. Main Street Jack in the English breed, he is as common as apple pie.
Yeah, well, you look at these lists, and you see Main Street, Briar Creek, Hard Time over and over again, and that's a testament to those breeders. And like you said, those guys set the foundation for where it'd go. But real quick, Main Street Jack, he was owned by Asa Briggs there in Morley, Michigan. We'll give him some props for what he did. But one interesting thing that I found looking at this list, Briar Creek Chrome has 4 dogs that he sired on this list.
Yeah.
He's showing up everywhere on this list. And there's also 3 other males on here that have multiple dogs. One of them is Main Street Roy, which you talked about. You got Beck's Pithole Creek Huckabuck, which is a Briar Creek dog with a little bit of a different name. And then the one we just talked about, Red Ruby Hard Time Hoss, has two on the current list. So impressive for those breeders for sure.
Yeah, just an impressive list for sure. All right, moving on to females.
Yeah, current females right now. Our top reproducing English female is Louise BC Tree Slamming Booger out of Briar Creek Chrome and Badlands Witch. You got Coon Creek Jenny out of North Hill Forest Gump and Kennedy Mountain Minnie Co. You got Sinking Creek Sissy May out of Savage Sam and Rooster's Midnight Mojo. Jones Mitchell Creek Rain out of Code Red Mr. Bonehead and Oni's June. And tied for 4th there, which is rounding out the top 5, is K3's Hard Time Bella out of Combs Hard Time Eddie and Hickory Holler Crazy Kate.
Then 6th through 10th, starting with 6th, Barton's Ball Ridge Raven. 7th, tied for 7th, is Fisher's Black River Freckles, Spence's Creek Midnight Queen. And then in 9th, we have Pennsyltucky Fancy Oakley and Coon Valley Red Robin rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, the first one we talked about there, Booger, obviously out of Briar Creek Chrome. That dog's owned by Louis Noy of Cloverdale, Indiana.
Yeah, here again, we're talking about the highest percentages, 32% for her.
Very good.
Very good.
Very good. And a lot of these current females, you're probably not done seeing them at. A lot of the historical lists, you're probably done seeing their pups producing at. Right. Booker probably has some, don't know for sure, but I would say she probably has some young dogs who aren't done competing yet at this time.
Yeah, a total of 31 pups, 10 of which are titled.
Yeah. And talk about percentages. Wow, let's get to the historical list of the English females here. What a list.
Yeah, first here you have Reagan's Hatchie River Dottie, a dog that that you've seen that name a lot, who is off of Reagan's Rebel Thunder and Country Hollow Freebie. Number 2 is Red Lady, who is off of Murphy's Little Hild Luke and Kay's Annie. Number 3 dog is Gullett's Oakwoods Diamond, who is off of Oakwood's Sunkissed and Gold Nugget Kate. Number 4 is Moore's All Grand Kate, who is off of Neshoba Valley Roller and Sandy Creek Copper. And then number 5, Cedar Ridge Battle Cry, who is off of Cedar Ridge Breadman and Cedar Ridge Cry. It's your top 5.
Yeah.
Historical.
6 through 10, Pithole Creek Sissy, Lickety Split Leah, Indian Ridge Cindy, American Outlaw Wild Dog, and Mason Truman Creek Smoky. Man, what a list here. Talking about Dottie, owned by Murray Reagan of Tennessee.
53%. 53%.
And not a small number of pups, 60 pups on the ground, and 32 of them titling out. That's impressive. Not much more you can say about that. That's just overly impressive. But if you look at this list, man, there's a few females that obviously you got Dottie at 53%. Below her, Red Lady there, 63% on 33 pups. Leah down here was 67% on 21 pups. 14 of her 21 pups titled out. That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, for sure.
That is a really strong list of English females there on the historical list.
Move on to Plot Hounds.
Plot Hounds, yep.
Yeah, all right. Let me take a crack at the Plot Hounds here, if you don't care. Our current list is the national dual champion, Harold's Logan, who is sired by Carr's Redwood Skid and off of Harold's Miss T. And the only other dog to make the list this month is Curvin's Cypress Lake Hank, who is sired by Moses Rugged Ridge Poacher and off of Hicks's Rough Ridge Splash.
Yeah, and then so they're the only two that met the parameter. Logan, of course, Harold's Logan there is obviously owned by Bill Harrell in Indiana, right there around the Peru area. Has a very strong line of plot dogs, and this is one of his new big stud dogs that he has that he's done a lot of winning with, but is also throwing some really nice.
Yeah,
pups.
and Logan's a pretty solid little dog, and his mama Harold's Miss T, that was just a little dog and very very fast, like that little dog. She was in the top 20 of the World Hunt here several years ago, and I know they ribbed old Mr. Harrell a little bit that he kind of made a bad call on her. Some of them felt he kind of deprived her from making it to the final cast of the World Hunt, but there was a nice little plot female there in Miss T, Logan's mama.
Moving over to the historical list of plot males, you got Blower's Redwood Okie in first out of Coon's Redwood Tango and Coon's Redwood Fur Making Maggie. Second is Burnett's Rooster out of Pride's JR and Sing It Again Hannah. You got Hager's Mingo Redwood Solid Oak out of Blower's Redwood Okie and Blower's Redwood Josie. Zink's Bayou Amy's Revenge out of Morgan's Bayou Jake and Zink's Bayou Amy. And rounding out the top 5 is Moses' Rugged Ridge Poacher out of Moses' Rough Ridge Victor and Rugged Hills Brindle Jazz.
Yeah, and then in 6th you have River Bluff Brindle Cowboy Up, Walker's Pocahontas Cody 2. 8th is Plot's Shirk Slingin' Mud. In 9th is Pretty Boy Poacher, and 10th is Millennium Magic Gravedigger.
Yeah, so first we'll talk about Okie a little bit. He's was owned by Jeffrey Coons of Gloucester, Ohio. It's a dog that I just did a recent write-up on that kind of is when you look at the historical part of it, his percentage is really high compared to other dogs that you see in the Plot breed. And I think that's because Plot is probably the breed that is most outsourced for big game and not hunted in night hunts as much as you would see. So his 14.17% on 127 pups is pretty good. I believe a bulk of his pups are probably being used for coons.
Yeah,
it would seem.
Yeah, these I'm not as familiar with a lot of the Plot breeding. There's some of these that one of the best Plot females that I ever personally hunted with was the dam of the number 3 dog, Mingo Redwood Solid Oak, and that is Blower's Redwood Josie. That little dog is probably in what I would probably put her in the top 5 of Plot females that I've ever hunted with.
Yeah.
Just a nice, solid, hard treeing dog, hard going, and just really like that female.
Yeah. I've obviously hunted, not necessarily with the dogs on here, but some of you see the rugged, the Kevin Moses and Alan Moses and the Bill Hicks, and obviously I'm from Southeast Tennessee. These hunted with these guys coming up all over the place, and they usually have a pretty good dog that you're going to have to beat in a hunt, and I'm glad to see their name on here a few times and giving them some recognition.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get over to the current Plot females. Got another a shorter list here from they're just not meeting the parameters, but number 1 on the current list is Perry Solo Redwood Izzy out of Hager's Mingo Redwood Jacob and Harris's Redwood Queen. You got Schroeder's Bayou Banana out of Weber's Real Tree and Camo and Treetop Monkey Molly. 3rd is Rugged Hills Pistol Annie out of Double Aught Buckshot and Harris's Redwood Queen. And last one on the list there is Moses' Soaky Creek Hard Candy out of Moses' Pretty Boy Poacher and Moses' Soaky Creek Izzy. Izzy, real quick, the top current reproducing female is owned by Lindell Perry in Buckhannon, West Virginia. Lindell's having a really good year. Him and Jacob Coons, they've really been in the winner circle all year with their plots, so it doesn't surprise me one bit to see him up there.
Yeah, I think Jacob handles a lot of his dogs in the night hunt, and but Lindell, he's a bear hunter for the most part, I think.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so they hunt a lot of the same dogs on both.
Yeah, absolutely. Good dual purpose dogs.
And a lot of those little females, a lot of them are kind of small, but if you look at them, the ones that I see Jacob handling anyways, they're always all muscled up, and they're working dogs, and
you can tell they get hunted. That's for sure.
For sure. Okay, moving on to the number 2 there is Schrader's Bayou Banana. That's a dog out of Florida. And he's had a lot of success with that dog. He's had her in the World Hunt, top 100 several times, and Mr. Schroeder.
Yeah. Good to see him on there. Like you said, being in Florida, there's not a ton of opportunities to title dogs out. We don't have very many clubs down that way, so impressive to see a dog like that on this list.
Yeah, and then the historical list, number 1, we have Blower's Redwood Josie, who is off of Buckeye Sarge 3, and Timber Ridge Mandy. Number 2, Harold's Miss T, who is off of Mingo Redwood Solid Oak and Harold's Penny. And number 3, Rugged Hills Brindle Jazz, who is off of Rugged Hills Tennessee Buckshot and Lightning Lucy. Number 4 is Buckeye Dixie, who is, let me see here.
Off of Buckeye Bud and R&R's Buckeye Katie.
That's it. Number 5, Kyle's Brindle Redwood Dixie, who's off of Redwood Okie and Daybreak's Fancy.
6th through 10th, we have Cody's Good News Sweet Sue, Doc's Plot Becky II, Morgan's Losses Hills Dawn, Sourwood's Pocahontas Sue, and Morgan's Bayou Sadie.
Yeah, so there again is Redwood Josie, and at number 1, they're 31%.
Evan Workman and Dan Workman of Kimbolton, Ohio, own Josie.
29 titled pups off of her. No. Yeah, 29 titled, but 9 titled, or 29 registered, 9 titled.
Right.
That's it.
And even on this list, there were a couple that had multiple dogs in this list. I talked about earlier, Kevin and Alan Moses, their dog Moses' Rugged Ridge Poacher. You probably heard his name a few times. Has 3 dogs on this list, which is just impressive when you consider the numbers. And then 2 other have multiple dogs. Blower's Redwood Okie and Harris's Redwood Queen both have 2 each on the list. Yeah,
I mentioned Harold's Miss T there. Buckeye Dixie, number 4 on this list. She's over in Ohio, and that is probably one of the hardest tree dogs I have ever heard, Dixie. Of all breeds. I mean, she could clip them off.
Talk about dogs that you've hunted with. I'd say you probably hunted with a few from this next breed that we're going to talk about. And we're to the Redbones.
Yeah, there you go.
Get back to your old heyday.
There you go. So the current list right now, they have 4 that made the current list, met the parameters. Number 1 is Crooked River Red Turkey, who is off of the Red Rocker and Rogers Ridge Running Roxy. Number 2 is Perky's Night Stalker Bruiser, who is sired by Moonlight Big Time Bow and off of Perky's Night Stalker Sierra. Number 3, Grimes Lockdown Luke, who is off of Hicks Rusty and Simpson's Coon Stretch and Gretchen. And number 4, Fired Up Barefoot George, who's off Code Red Bullet and Mona Lisa Smiles. 4 of them made the list for current.
You said Red Turkey was the top current reproducer right there. That's a dog owned by Travis Oliphant in Richmond, Missouri.
Yep. Has a total of 105 pups on the ground, and 7 of them are titled.
Going on to the historical list here. Number 1, Keys Outlaw Razor Red out of Thomas's Missouri Bruiser and Markham's Red Kentucky Molly. We got Ficken's Deep Woods Rocky out of T-Top Rabble Rouser and Thomas Midnight Music. The Red Rocker out of Steps Little Pepper and Nighty Night Moonlight Kate. T-Top Rabble Rouser out of T-Top Tree Talkin' Red Rat and T-Top Rockin' Red Raven. And rounding out the top 5, you have Kaufman's Smokin' Jericho out of Kaufman's Smokin' Zebo and Kaufman's Red Roxy.
Yep, and then rounding out the top 10 is Yellow River Red Doc, Black Creek Stillwater Chase, Big G Farms Red Ice, Moonlight Aftershock, and Hastings Holler Oak Stevo.
We talked about Razor Red. That's one that I just recently did on Stud Dog Thursday for the Redbone breed. Compares really well to the history of the breed as far as titled dogs. That's a dog that's owned by Rob and Katina Childers of West Alexandria, Ohio.
Yeah, they bought that dog years ago off of Mr. Alton Key out of Wisconsin, and they've had a lot of success with his offspring for sure. You know, his mama there is Markham's Red Kentucky Molly, just a PR dog, not a title dog, and that's a dog I've hunted with. He just didn't hunt that dog very much in competition at all, but I can tell you that is one solid female right there.
Yeah. And just looking at the numbers there, 58 titled pups, being the number one overall historical reproducer. Next, 39.
Yeah, yep. Exactly.
Impressive.
You know, there's, like you said, you know, I know a lot of these dogs, you know, Jericho there. I'll tell you a quick little story. Hunting at Autumn Oaks one time. I forget what year it was or which, but anyways, we had a strange dog come into my dog. My dog's the only one over there. And I thought we had all the other dogs accounted for, but I'm swearing there's another dog treed with my dog. And we finally get in there, and sure enough, here's a little puppy that is treed with it. A guy had been just pleasure hunting around there, and he's hunting close to Richmond there, and it turns out it was little Smoking Jericho.
Oh, there you
go. He was just a puppy at that time. Somebody was Kaufman, not Johnny Kaufman was
Johnny and
well,
Alice.
it was Young. It was Mike Young. Mike Young was handling or hunting him, and he came up there all apologetic, but yeah, it was actually a little Jericho.
Were you hunting Tex that night?
I was hunting.
I guess Tex might have rubbed off on old
I
Jericho
don't
a little
know,
bit.
but he treated him
something.
Yeah.
Let's get into some of the current Redbone reproducing females. First right now is Fish Creek's She's a Freak out of Lundy's Fish Creek Red Rebel and no dams listed. Second, Crazy Mountain Midnight Ruby out of Albie's Little Lace and Albie's Red Trixie. Third, L's Rowdy Rhonda out of Pigeon River Big Red Jim and L's Dark Timber Wendy. Fourth is Pigeon River Penny and Vaughn's Red Banjo III. Is out of Vaughn's Red Banjo III and Muddy Creek High Test Heidi. And fifth is going to be Wade's Red Bush out of Rocky Top Jet and Wade's Red Heat.
And then also tied for fifth, there's Allen's Ricochet Ruby, Moran's Midnight Brown Sugar, Big Walnuts One Chance Fancy, Steph's Whiz Bang, and rounding out the top 10 is Red Fever Baby Likes to Rock. That's on the current list for females.
She's a Freak there. That's a dog owned by Larry Walker and Byron Lundy of Spencer, Indiana.
Yeah, that's a dog that doesn't show the dam, but I'm going to say that's probably a dog that was single registered under the old single registration rules. And rumor has it she is maybe a half breed.
Oh boy!
But nevertheless, she has produced some nice, outstanding dogs off of Freak there. A total of what has four title dogs off her
out of just 31. So,
yeah. Yep.
But when you get into the historical, that's whenever we're going to see bigger numbers and some pretty good percentages on
for
here.
sure. Yep.
Number one on the historical there, Triple B Ragged Ridge Toady out of Ragged Ridge CD and Posey's Ragged Ridge Katie did. You got Moonlight Pepper Ann out of Steps Little Pepper and 99 Moonlight Kate. 99 Moonlight Kate is third on the list out of Reed's Saline River Rat and Wapsie River Cookie. You got Kentucky Moonlight Brianna out of Moonlight Big Time Bow and Moonlight Deanna. And there in fifth, you have Jones Yellow River Red Chili out of Mill Creek's Yellow River Dan and Mill Creek's Dancing Red Bailey.
Yeah, and then on down, Mommy's Bemby, T-Top Rockin' Red Raven, Van's Red Oak Dot, Dark Timber Wendy, and Perky's Night Stalker Sierra. They round out the top 10. But those are some females that have done a lot of winning themselves. Not just reproduced, but have done a lot of winning in their time back in the day. And I know most all of them quite well.
Yeah. First one there, Toady, that's a dog that's owned by Keith Bowling of Osgood, Indiana. And, man, she has a pretty nice record there. Speaks for itself, I guess. 42 pups on the ground, 19 of them titled out for a 45%.
Yeah, that's about as good as it gets there. And she herself was just an outstanding female. She is one of the, back in the day, I remember she was one of them that was probably about as independent as you would find in a Redbone female in her day.
Yeah. And there are a couple other good percentages on there. I see Kate, who has multiple dogs on this list, with over 50%, and also Brianna, who has just over 40%.
Right.
And there's actually a couple of dogs on here that have multiple dogs real quick. Steps Little Pepper has 2 dogs on this list. Moonlight Big Time Bow has a couple of dogs on this list. Big Walnut Boone has 2 on this list. Wrong Way Ace. And Toady, like we talked about, has 2. But Moonlight Kate, 99 Moonlight Kate, has 3 on this list. So that's impressive for a female to have 3 on this list.
Yeah, very impressive. Moonlight Kate is one that she sits at number 3, historical, but she is one that was a big name back in the middle to late 90s, early 2000s. Was just a really nice dog. Did a lot of winning. Won the annual series one year.
And we saved the smallest breed for last. That way we could knock it out easy. There they go. The Tree and Walker Coonhounds.
Yeah.
So obviously, when we talked about some of the top reproducers of all time, mostly filled with Walkers, when we talk about our current reproducing lists, it's going to be some impressive numbers on here. So
sure is. It's we went over this list earlier today before we started recording and got to the Walkers here, and it's very impressive.
So just to jump right in, let's talk about the current list real quick. Our current number 1 reproducing Walker male is Mountaintop Slow Talking Beau. It's a dog out of Slow Talking Blaze and Neosho River Wild Roxy. Stylish Bushwhacker out of Colson's Master It and Stylish Abigail. McCall's Silverado Dan out of Waltz's Roadhog and Chloe's Flying Ruby. Dixon's White River Shaker out of Welch's Bodock and Dixon's White River Shorty. And West Fork River All Grand Camo Man out of Track Man and Witch's Half Pint Peggy.
Then in 6th, you have Midnight Rider. In 7th, Insane Frosted Train. 8th is Wipeout Weapon. 9th is Wipeout 3. And then in 10th, we have Somewhere Stylish Coma.
The first place there, dog, we're going to talk about him a little bit. Slow Talking Beau. That's a dog owned by Randy Lester in Grundy, Virginia. And kind of surprising that Randy is still hunting Beau pretty regularly, a dog that we saw in our top 100 of our TOC and some different places in major events. That's also on the top of this top reproducers list, so that's impressive.
Yeah, it's over 300 pups sired.
42 of them titled out, and that makes 13.7%, so not bad for a dog that's still pretty young in his reproduction legacy.
Right. Stylish Bushwhacker, they're number 2. Obviously, that's a name that we hear a lot. That's a very popular name, and that's a dog that came out of northern Indiana. And I don't think I've ever hunted with Bushwhacker. I'm surprised I haven't. I've seen him a lot at hunts, but I don't think I can't remember I've ever hunted with him. His mom I have, Stylish Abigail. She was a nice dog. And, Bushwhacker is a kind of an open spot, kind of a white-looking dog, and Abigail was very she had a mostly white dog, but they've had a lot of success off old Bushwhacker as well. 639 pups sired by Bushwhacker already.
Yeah, I was going to say, one thing that you'll see on our current list, if you keep up with it, is having a whole bunch of pups on the ground. Being I guess Bushwhacker's probably around 6-7 years old, probably not much older than that if he is. Having that many pups on the ground and being able to be on the current reproducers list because of the percentages that it goes by instead of the sheer numbers is kind of rare. So that just shows that a lot of the Bushwhacker pups are doing really well in the competition scene. Yeah,
and the other thing that's good to see is Whitey Marshall's dog here, Silverado Dan. Whitey Marshall is just a good guy out of Kentucky there and has taken his breeding seriously for a lot of years here. And he's got old Silverado Dan as number 3 on the current list.
Yeah. Then when you talk about some big names, let's take a deep dive into the historical list here. Number 1, All Grand Track Man out of Nocturnal Style and Rock River Lady. 2, Backwater Bone Collector out of Hub's Homer and Looking Up Stylish Nowheres. Insane Kane out of X Jr. and Insane Jane. Tequila Sunrise out of Rat Attack and Stylish Silk. And Booger Hollow Mojo out of Davis's Stylish Harry's Hammer and Horse Range Stylish J-Lo.
Yeah, then in 6th, you have Fletcher's Stylish Jake. 7th is Schooner River Fred. 8th is Crow and Grant's Cutter. 9th is Cowie Creek Clint. And 10th is Son's Rock River Cord.
What else can we say about Trackman? We've talked about him a little bit already. Obviously owned by Kurt Ehring and Buzz Lynch. Kurt's up in Missouri. But, man, to be on top of this list isn't surprising because of his sheer number of pups. He has over 3. Actually, of this, our list earlier might have been a little outdated. He has over 3,000 pups now, according to our most current reproducers list.
Yeah, I think we talked about that. He was like 5 short. So yeah.
It's at 13
Must
pups.
Must have been a matter of a day or two here.
And 515 of those titled out. But what's impressive to me is still 17% of his pups are titled out.
Yep, sure is.
Just a dominant reproducer, seems like.
Yeah, Bone Collector, obviously another one that's just all these dogs on here, big name dogs in the breed. Bone Collector, Insane Kane, Tequila Sun, Booger Hollow Mojo. That's another one that has done so much. And most of these dogs, probably as far as the top 5, probably none more so than Booger Hollow Mojo. He has won a lot from an early age. But yeah, It's just Schooner River Fred, Crow and Grant's Cutter. I remember when that dog was in the final cast of the World Hunt. Just a solid dog. A pup off of him that did well in your part of the country. What was that dog's name? Cutter Kane.
Cutter Kane.
Cutter Kane, yeah.
Derek
But just some really solid dogs. Rock River Cord, obviously Frank Giddings stuff off of Sackett Jr.'s son. But just an impressive name of who's who on that list.
Before we move to the females, just quickly looking at the top 20 sires who have titled the most pups. 9 dogs on this historical list are in the top 20. So that just shows you that this list is a very strong list.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over some of the current Walker females there?
Sure. So current Walker females, starting with number 1, is Sloan's Insane Bella, who is sired by Sloan's Insane Kane and off a Tree Singing Barbie doll. Number 2 is Mullins Take It Easy, who is off a Red Eagle Good Time Charlie and Hardwood Liquid Maxie. Number 3 is Dunbar Zoe, who's off a Hughes Storm and Hughes Mighty Holly. Number 4 is the world champion Spavinaw Creek Insane Emmy, who is off a Gorgeous Gomer and Caney Creek Jojo. And then number 5 is also a past world champion Keegan's Lettin' Loose Lila, who is off a Devinger's Hog Creek Mike and Lone Pine Honey Bunny.
Running out our top 10 there, we got Long's Missouri 3 Blank Domino, Beulah River Hannah, Dirty White Lie, Mafia's Redneck Baby, and Abbott's Lightning Ann.
Yeah, so number 1, what do you have on Insane Bella? They're 43%, another good percentage here, 41 total pups, 18 of them are titled.
Yeah, just a dog that Tom Sloan owns over in David, Kentucky. He owns Bella, and like you said, great numbers for Bella there.
Yeah, just very impressive. Obviously 2 world champions there that need no introduction. Spavinaw Creek Insane Emmy, Letting Loose Lila. 2 dogs there. It's good to see those dogs that have won a lot and won big in their day showing up on current reproducers lists like this.
Yeah, and I see down there in the 9 spot, or tied for 8th there, Mafia's Redneck Baby. That'd be the dam of our world champion this year.
Yeah, there you go.
Get going, Jenna. So
right.
Seeing a lot of, it's always good to see some world champion stuff on here.
Yeah. So the last but not least, we have the historical list for females. Number 1, Hardwood She's Not Easy, who's sired by All Grand Trackman and off of Habit Stylish Josie. Number 2 is Insane Wenty, who's off of Insane Kane and Naylor's Hurricane Janie. Number 3 is Crocker's Quick Flash, who's off of Sun's Rock River Cord and Scott's Crooked Creek Threat. And number 4, Backwater Pearl, who is off of Kitty's Wipeout Zeb and Moore's Hillbilly Bonnie. And then number 5 is the world champion Bolden and Turpin's Insane Jane, who is off of Stylish Rube and Naylor's Hurricane Jane.
6th through 10th, we got Brown's Little Peg, Stylish Witch, Truman Lake Windy, Peppermint Patty, and Rock River Lady.
Yes.
What a list of females that have had a huge impact on the breed. Just so impressive. The first one there, Hardwood She's Not Easy, that's a female owned by Dennis Griffin and Jerry Frazier of Sumner, Georgia. Probably best known for her and Power Pack just absolutely dropping a ton of nice dogs onto the scene down there in the South.
Right. And number 2, that Insane Wenty, number 2, the percentage there, wow, impressive, 78%, 35 permanently registered dogs out of the 37 total pups, 29 of them are titled.
Dude, just looking at the percentage of the Walker females, what it takes to get on this historical female list, you got to be proud of yourself to make this list.
Yeah.
53%, 78, 60, 70, 61, 54. My goodness.
Yeah, Backwater Pearl, they're 70%. Just crazy. Crocker's Quick Flash. She's a dog out of Michigan here, has produced so many nice dogs. And I've hunted with a bunch of them. This is a crazy list right here.
Yeah. And to talk about some of the notable things on the list as far as dogs that have multiple offspring.
When I say crazy, I mean crazy good.
Yes,
crazy good.
That's right. Rock River at Sackett Jr., obviously a Michigan dog here that the Giddings own, has 3 on this list, 2 historical males, a historical female. Also got 5 other sires and dams that have multiple dogs on the list. Trackman, Insane X, Hickory Nut Harry, Frostbite, and Naylor's Hurricane Jane all have multiple dogs on the list that they have either whelped or sired. So. One thing that stood out to me looking at this Walker list and the historical list, we talked about how a lot of the historical list that's on there currently is also on our top of all time list. Do you, just the way it is right now, with so people spreading out so much with dogs they're breeding to, do you see any of our current stud dogs ever making an impact on the breed with 3,000-4,000 pups on the ground again?
I don't know. There's one dog that is one of the hottest stud dogs out there right now. We haven't even mentioned his name.
Yep.
And that's the world champion Willie.
Yep.
And is just the hottest stud dog out there right now and reproducing like crazy. And the other day we were talking with about that is J.R. Gray, who owns Willie, was very new at the time. He had only been hunting in competition for a couple of years when he won the world championship with Willie. And we were talking about, had that not all transpired the way it did, he wins the world championship, gets some females backed up to him, we may have never known what Willie could have produced.
Right.
But now that's a dog that we've not mentioned in any of these lists, and we will here, probably the next time or soon here down the road. He is going to make these lists. But that just shows you, as hot as he is, I don't know what his numbers look like right now, but they're looking really good. But that just goes to show you how strong the breed is in the reproduction side of things. Yeah,
and it also I jotted down his numbers before we came down because I noticed the same thing. Willie's not on there. As of right now, he sired just right at 1,200 pups, 66 title dogs. A lot of them are really young. He's putting down pups on pups the past couple of years.
And that just goes 66 title dogs and that many pups on the ground, and he hasn't even showed up. Yeah. We didn't talk about him today. It just tells you really how strong, really puts it into perspective how strong this reproducers list is.
The history of the Walker breed, it's
impressive.
Very impressive.
Impressive.
Man, I sure hope everybody enjoyed our little talk about reproduction. It was honestly a lot of information.
Yeah, it took a little longer than I thought it might, but
we may get scolded by the media team here a little bit for going over time a little bit. But hey, I enjoyed it, and I think people are going to enjoy hearing about some of the history of the top reproducers in the breed, and probably one that they refer back to and listen to a few times, I'd say. But we hope you guys enjoyed this, and hope you stick around for the next one. Thanks for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and to like and follow UKC Hunting Ops on Facebook and Instagram.